Why will God do this? It's interesting because the liberals love the verse I'm about to read because they think it's a contradiction. Verse 21, again, and the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. Then the Lord said in his heart, I will never curse the ground for man's sake, although, because, it's the little word key in Hebrew, and it means most often for, because. I think one of the other translations has because. Read it because just for a second. I will never again curse the ground for man's sake because, here's the reason, the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Now, what kind of a reason is that? If you look at it, in Genesis 6, verse 5, that was the reason for sending the flood. Verse 5, then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Next verse, and the Lord was sorry that he made man, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man from the face of the earth, whom I have created. The reason God destroyed man was because every thought of his heart was only evil. The reason now God's not going to destroy man, because the imagination of man's heart, same thing, it's the intent, same word, is evil from his youth. See, here's where the progressive Christians, it's really an insult to the word Christian to call them that because they don't believe. When they say it the Bible contradicts itself because God can't have the same reason to destroy the world as the reason to preserve the world. And what they show when they make that claim is that they don't understand grace at all. They don't understand grace. For them, it's a contradiction that God would say, the reason why I'm destroying the world is man's sinfulness. And then to say, the reason why I won't destroy the world anymore is man's sinfulness. And yet that's exactly what God says. He says, the reason I won't destroy the world anymore is that man is sinful from his youth. By the way, that doesn't lessen the verdict of chapter 6. It increases it. It says, as Calvin writes, as soon as man can think and formulate rational thoughts, he's evil. And beloved, let me ask you, who is God talking about in chapter 8? We know he was talking about chapter 6, right? The whole world, the whole antediluvian, pre-flood world. You know, some would say, like, because of the Nephilim, we looked at that a little bit. Who's he talking about now in chapter 8? Who's left? Who's left? 8 people. And yet God says of these 8 people, Noah, righteous Noah, that every thought is evil from their youth. There's only 8 left. I thought these were the good guys that are left. They're still sinners. Do you recognize the judgments of God do not change the hearts of men? The judgments of God never change anyone's heart. Never makes anyone better. And when God pronounced that sentence in Genesis 6, and this is proof of it, it wasn't because there was some monstrous amalgamation of demon and human giant Nephilim creature, and they were the ones who were that bad. They're gone now. And God says the same thing. They're that sinful. They deserve a flood. 8 normal people now. Believers now. God's judgment didn't change man's heart. He wasn't talking about particular peoples, a particular generation. He was talking about mankind. He was talking about human nature. This is what fallen human nature is. That's 8:21. Man's heart is evil from his youth. This is every human. This is the consequence of sin. This is what sin has done. And there's only 8 people left that God could say this about. And it's, yes, righteous Noah, righteous by the grace of God, but Noah in and of himself, every thought, evil from his youth. And the reason why this doesn't contradict itself is because this shows the sheer, as I said in my theme, free grace of God. You don't deserve it. I don't deserve it. No race, no generation has ever deserved it, but I will never destroy the world again Because I'm God. Because I don't change, O Israel. Therefore, you're not consumed. I have decided to be gracious, to not send another flood, to not send another judgment. God's reason for sending the flood is now God's reason for not sending the flood. And what we learn from this is that it's not by might nor by